Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another edition of Cúilín Media as we discuss this weekend's action in a plethora of county final action this weekend, especially on Sunday. As the game's starting to shorten, obviously the games of importance starting to increase. It is going to be an excellent weekend of Gaelic games without a doubt. I'm delighted to be joined once again by the full cast here: Liam White, Seamus Brady and Aaron Prendergast, as we discuss the weekend's action and the week in GA news. I suppose I'll start with you, Liam. First of all, your club's involved in a pretty important game in the Offaly final this weekend against Shinrone Kilcormac-Callaghy, obviously playing Shinrone. That's live at TG Car on Sunday, so I suppose the community there is bouncing.
Yeah, absolutely. Weirdly enough, our local shop hasn't been selling flags or hats or anything like that, which is very strange. You know, it's not, unlike the previous couple of years. Maybe we're just used to being in final. I can't say that, can I? But yeah, no, very much looking forward to Sunday. It's unreal, to be fair, that this weekend we have the Dublin football final on TG Car, the Offaly hurling final on TG Car, and the Cork hurling final on RT2. It's actually quite ideal for all four of us, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, very much looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to Devon entire final as well as the rest of the action over the weekend. So yeah, good to be back on again.
Exactly. So, and I suppose Seamus, good for you to be back on again, as Liam mentioned there again as well. Nafina playing Ballyboden St Enda's this weekend, and you're the only person out for predictions for the Leinster Football Championship that's still alive at Ballyboden. But I suppose knowing Earl Nafina will win.
I don't know. I've been pretty confident with how Bowden have played. Apart from, I'd say, the first half of that Cúilín game. Like, it was really, really interesting looking at it, because I was walking out after that semi-final and I was saying, you know what, like, I got the prediction right technically in the end, but if you had asked me with 10 minutes to go, did I think that Bowden were going to win? Not a chance. And it just shows that, especially with the new rules now, lads, like, football has moved very close to hurling, and that in 5 minutes the game can swing. Like, Bowden were 7 points behind in the 55th minute, 5 minutes to go in normal time against the All-Ireland champions, and they ended up winning the game. Just how quickly a 2-pointer, 2 goals, the space that was in the Cúilín defence there, and the space, to be fair, that was in the Bowden defence, just Cúilín didn't take their chances to finish them off. Whereas Nafina's win was just pure, like, heart, grit, determination, everything like that, and it was equally gripping. So it's going to be an absolutely sensational weekend. Not only that, we myself, I'm on commentary duty tomorrow night for the Dublin Camogie final, and between your pick to win the All-Ireland, St. Vincent's going up against Luke and Sarsfield, so that could go down in a blaze of glory tomorrow night. I'll be first to message you if Vincent's do lose, and but I'm only messing. Look, it should be a great final. Vincent's are going for 4 in a row, so again, history potentially there to be made, but a lot of entertainment coming up this weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of entertainment coming up. As I switch over to you, Aaron, there's a question in the comments about this. Aaron, are you going to the Dublin final? I suppose you have to answer that.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet, to be honest. I think I might do, to be honest. Like, I don't live far from Parnell Park. Saturday night, sure, what else would you be doing? So you might as well go down and absorb it and take it in and everything else. And yeah, like, it's going to be a historic day, really. Like, in many ways, like, Nafina haven't won it since 2001, Ballyboden not since 2019. So yeah, like, it has the makings of being a cracking game as well. Like, and as Seamus was saying as well, with the new rules, like, you feel like this could go either way. Like, I feel like a lot of the county finals, I know Cúilín won it last year, but I feel like a lot of the county finals, like, you feel like there's always been an obvious favourite over the last couple of years, especially with Croke's dominance and everything else. This feels like wide open, to be honest. Like, you could make a case for either team. I know it's ironic because Ballyboden actually beat Nafina early on in the groups by 17 points, which was a bit of a mad one, really. Like, that they're now back in the final. But yeah, like, looking forward to that game. Seamus was saying as well, like, the Camogie final, some other cracking games as well. Like, you have the Down final, Derry football finals as well, Mayo football finals. So yeah, there's a lot to go through, lads.
Not to digest, definitely, no doubt about it. Again, at the Dublin final, Dublin is greatest thing here. Does anybody know if I can get the Dublin final in English, because I'm blind and do not speak Irish, I suppose? Would there be any radio channels, lads?
I think FM 104 will probably be giving updates on the game as it's going, but I don't think they're doing live commentary, unfortunately, because somebody should, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So Peter's saying here, Nate's looking to do with the 5th dual double in a row. That's quite impressive for that club, no doubt.
Quite impressive, but the rest of the championship is shite. That's dominance on a scale that is difficult to imagine. It's really, 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 it's really impressive how well run Nace are. They're a super club. Their facilities, their teams is absolutely unbelievable. But we are talking about it there. It's really impressive up until you go past a certain point. And what point do you think it is, lads? Because when we're having the chats about, Slot Neil winning 13 in a row in Derry, Ballygunner winning 12 in a row in Waterford Hurling, Ballymacarbery when they were winning 42 in a row in the Waterford LGFA. At what point does it go past just wow, what an achievement from that club? And at what point are you looking at, funding and the other clubs and saying the other clubs need to step their game up?
I suppose with 44 in a row, or 42 in a row, I think that's whatever about, say, what Ballygunner have done or what Schlockneil have done or what Nace are doing at the moment. If you're winning 40 championships in a row, that's a big concern, not going to lie. But yeah, look, this is the thing. I've kind of noticed it over the last couple of years, because especially when you looked at, say, a lot of the big criticism over Dublin over the years was oh, of course they're winning All Irelands because they have the biggest population or they have the biggest amount of money or this, that, whatever. But John, that was such a talented Dublin squad and such a talented Dublin panel that came along during the 2010s that you see it now that it's just not easy to replace the players of that caliber now. It's going to take a long time for Dublin to replace a Brian Fenton, or it's going to take them a long time to replace McCarthy in the middle. Do you know what I mean? The players like this, Kieran Kilkenny, he'll be hard to replace over the next couple of years. And we'd seen it with even Kilkenny, their dominance coming to an end without winning All Ireland. It's hard to replace a Henry Shefflin just like that. It's hard to replace Cody at the back, or Brian Hogan, all these types of players. I think it just comes down to other clubs having to step up or other counties having to step up. Look, obviously population or having funds does help, but at the end of the day, if you're not making the most of the players that you have at your disposal, or if you're not making the most of the resources that you have at your disposal, then you're going to be falling behind. It's as simple as that. Now, I know, say with Waterford's example with Ballygunner, it nearly seems like it's favouring them much more than it is with other clubs. So I can understand that perspective. But from the, say, Kildare perspective, or maybe even the Derry perspective, it's probably just up to other clubs to step up and say, we need to start young as well. You got to start developing players from a young age and building them up over the next couple of years and making sure that they are staying on form, that they're doing the right things off the pitch, doing the right things on the pitch. And you never know, within a 5-6 year period, you could be looking at the team that's dominating now and they could be falling off and you could be the leading ones in a couple of years. So like you mentioned there, it all just comes down to how you manage lads, the type of players that you have coming through and who's involved as well.
Exactly so, and you definitely echo those points exactly. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the club action this weekend, there's a lot of funds to go through. We will go on GA News of the Week first, and we'll start off with the Tailteann Cup Team of the Year that was announced earlier today. And the Tailteann Cup team here, Kildare, the champions, got a total of 5 picks on this team. So the Team of the Year is Josh Ryan in goal from Limerick, obviously. In the full back line, you have Harry O'Neill from Kildare, Lee Cullen from Fermanagh, and Malachy Stone from Wicklow. The half back line is James McGrath of Kildare, Ian Corbett of Limerick, and Sam McCartan of Westmeath. The midfield is Dean Healy of Wicklow, Kevin Feely of Kildare, and then the half forwards, you have James Naughton of Limerick, Alex Byrne of Kildare, and Danny Neville of Limerick. And then the full forward line, you have Luke Loughlin, the top scorer of the Tailteann Cup, in at the number 13 position. You have Darragh Kieran of Kildare and Sean Nolan of Wexford, the top scorer for play in the competition, at the number 15 position. I suppose, Aaron, like the Tailteann Cup Team of the Year, a lot of people have been saying about it, and I probably thought the same. There hasn't been really controversial picks in any way, but what's your thoughts on the team? It seems like a very good team and well picked.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my first thought really was I'm not too sure who else to include. Like I think it is fairly spot on from looking at it. I know sometimes we kind of look at Team of the Years and we love to complain and we complain about players who are not there, but I think it does seem fairly spot on. That way. Like I think Ian Corbett had a phenomenal year. James Naughton I thought was outstanding from a Limerick perspective as well. I think it's good variation that they have across the team as well. Like it's not dominant by just Kildare players and everything else. Like I did see a few people maybe say on Twitter that only 5 Kildare players within the team. But at the same time, I think it is good variation that they do have other players like kind of across the board, and the likes of Sean Nolan, Luke Loughlin kind of in the ranks as well. So fairly solid team in fairness.
Yeah, exactly. So it seemed like a very solid team. I'll throw this question to you, Seamus, because a lot of people have been asking this. Lukey Loughlin, Tailteann Cup Player of the Year, because he was the top scorer of the competition. He scored a lot throughout the whole season. If you look at overall top scorers in all competitions, only David Clifford scored more than Luke Loughlin. He was absolutely outstanding for Westmeath this year. But the caveat is Westmeath only got to the quarterfinals of this competition, losing the Wicklow. So would you give Luke Loughlin the Player of the Year?
I think probably not, to be honest. He definitely deserves a mention, and he's worthy of his place in the team. But in my opinion, no, probably not. I think it shows how good he was throughout the competition, to be honest, that he's in the team, because in every championship, if you get knocked out at the quarterfinal stage, how many fantastic championship performers have we seen that their team gets knocked out at the quarterfinal stage and they don't get an all-star at the end of the season kind of because of it. So it's not a knock on Luke. I think he was absolutely, that comment from Dublin is great, is spot on. He was a freak this year. He was so accurate. I remember his free against Kildare, I think in the early stages of the league, when he boomed it over from about 50 metres. And from that point on, he's just been on it for this entire year. Right now, he's Westmeath's best player, and he picked up the mantle from John Heslin, and he absolutely led from the front all year. So he's nailed on for that team. He's one of the first names in. But I find it hard to not give it to someone from Kildare. When you look throughout the course of the season, how key players like Kevin Feely were, how key players like James McGrath, Alex Byrne, how key these guys were to their success, I think it probably should come from the Lily Whites, to be honest, as to who gets it. The one thing I would find interesting, just as a debate, lads, I'm assuming, and I'm very much assuming now, they're not going to be at the official All-Star ceremony, are they? Getting All-Stars?
No, it's on. I think it's on this week. I think, isn't it? I think it's on this week.
Do you think they should be, or is that just kind of plucking at straws a little bit? Do you think it should be one big night where they just announce the teams and then have the Player of the Year awards almost be their own thing?
I suppose, speaking from a Joe McDonough point of view, because we were in it last year, I think it's nice in a way that they do get their own night, and it's not being overshadowed by the actual All-Stars itself. I think it was nice last year that, just from our own example, that Charlie Mitchell got to, be the last person named as Joe McDonough Hurler of the Year from our perspective, and it gave him the perspective. It was honoring and respecting those, as people call them, lower competitions, which I never like saying that phrase, but at the end of the day, considering that everyone wants to be playing in the All-Ireland series, that's what they are at the end of the day. But it was nice for me to get to see, say, my own county man, or if it had been a Laois player last year, if it had been, Purcell in the midfield, or Tomas Keys if he had won it, or something like that, it was just nice to see one of those counties have the recognition themselves on that night. And I think it's the same for the Tailteann Cup. I think it's nice that these competitions get their own recognition. I know there's been a lot of people talking in the past about, should the Joe McDonough final and the All-Ireland final be on the same day? Should the Tailteann Cup final and the All-Ireland football final be on the same day? Potentially those could be seen in the future, but I think for award ceremony, I think it's a nice touch that, these players get their own recognition, get their own night out, and it doesn't take the gloss off the All-Stars either. It doesn't take the gloss off anyone else. So I think a standalone night is a fair thing, to be honest.
The only thing when people talk about the Tailteann being on the same weekend as the All-Ireland final, I would have no problem with that, given the fact that it's already on the weekend of the semi-final. So it would give it an opportunity to be part of that. When we're talking about making the All-Ireland football final weekend like a festival of football, or the hurling final be like a festival of hurling, moving the Christy Ring, Joe McDonough, and putting them on the Saturday before the Sunday, that would go a long way to turn it into a festival.
Yeah,
imagine if you said, if you buy a ticket to the All-Ireland final, you can buy a Joe McDonough ticket at a discounted rate or something like that, and you could really pack the stadium out for those games.
The thing is, though, Seamus, and the caveat is, remember to scramble for tickets for the Cork and Tipperary again.
Mm-hmm.
won't that be a big effect as well? Because we've seen people went insane over tickets or over not getting tickets for the Cork and Tipperary game. So just take for this year, for example, if you have Kildare and Laois added to that, wouldn't that be more of a headache for everybody involved?
No, I wouldn't be saying. I'm not saying that they should have been played on the same day. I'm saying that they should have been played the night before. So, like, you play on the Saturday the same way that the games are all played on the same day with the Christy Ring, the Nicky Rackard, the Laurie Marr. Maybe you could do the Laurie Marr, Nicky Rackard, because I get that 4 games in one day would be hectic. But if you were to do, I don't know, the Christy Ring and the John McDonough on the Saturday, and then have the All-Ireland hurling final on the Sunday. So then they wouldn't be interfering with the Cork and Tipperary tickets. But then with a discounted code, you could get a code with your All-Ireland final ticket and then put that code in to, you know, pay an extra tenner or something, and then you can go into the John McDonough final the night before.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, all right. Like I thought, yeah, like it does sound a bit kind of FAI kind of buying tickets to Ireland games, you know, like that kind of crack. But no, like I think if they did it right, the premise could definitely work. But I definitely do agree. I think they definitely should do something where they have the games on the Saturday before the Sunday. I think for All Ireland finals, like I would love them to bring back the minor finals. On All Ireland, there definitely should be a double header of some sort. There definitely should be something just kind of whet the appetite a little bit. You know what I mean? Because it does feel weird. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You know, like, and I remember very well. Like, I think it was might have been like the 18 final or something like that when Clifford was playing before with Kerry against Derry, and you were just like, Jesus, you were like this is some player here, like, you know, that way.
But then, like, you could have a situation there, like, with the minor finals having different counties to the counties that are competing. Like, I remember the last year it happened in the football. Kerry and Dublin were the senior. Then was Cork and Galway in minor. And there was very few Cork and Galway fans in the crowd or whatever. I don't have a problem with that, obviously. But then another thing, I'll throw this back to you, Aaron, about the minor finals. Do you think there was an excellent atmosphere at, let's say, country venues for the minor? Because I remember bringing Liam's Offaly into this. I remember Offaly playing Tipperary in the minor, and the atmosphere at Nolan Park was absolutely sensational that day. Waterford and Clare, obviously the atmosphere in Semple Stadium Thurles was very, very good too. The minor final between Kerry and Tyrone this year was very, very good. So would that kind of take away from the atmosphere, in your opinion, having the minor finals outside the country venues and having them in Croke Park, where inevitably you'd have, let's say, a Kerry and Dublin in the senior final, and then in the minor final you could have someone like a Tyrone against, let's say, Louth or something?
Yeah, I think it is an interesting one. Like, maybe logic should apply a little bit in the sense that, look, if it is, I know obviously you can't know in advance, like the minor finals are obviously done weeks before, you know, like kind of before the football final. But maybe if they can get them back on the same schedule a little bit, and then common sense can apply a little bit where, like, obviously say with this year it was Kerry Tyrone and then it was Kerry Donegal in the obviously Kerry Tyrone in the under 20 final, and then in the senior final it was Kerry Donegal. Like, maybe they could do something like that where if it is similar counties they can plan it a little bit more. Maybe if it is like what you said, like say like with Offaly Tipperary in like in the under 20 final a few years back, like maybe that should be separate then as well. I don't know. Yeah, I think it is an interesting one, because I think like the Offaly Tipperary final from a couple of years ago, the occasion for that probably wouldn't have been as good if it was a double header or if it was in Croke Park, I'd imagine, in terms of the support that came out. So it's an interesting one. I think just maybe logic should apply a little bit when these things happen, but obviously that's kind of hard to predict, you know.
Hopefully the result would have been different.
Peter's commenting here, just on the Ticket Mania, the amount of bandwagon supporters in the final this year, the stories of people asking where's Croke Park is just mad. Agree with Seamus' idea before about a merit system. Yeah, I suppose, Seamus, you better elaborate on that, but that would definitely be a good thing. I know we're going a bit off topic here, but it would be an excellent idea.
But that would be my thing, that the Ticketmaster is such a sham of an organization, like the amount of data leaks they've had and stuff like that, and people having problems with the app and everything, that I don't think anybody would miss it. But on top of that, if the GA were to take control of it, they could very, very, in my opinion, or like take it to somewhere else or anything like that, or even go and negotiate with Ticketmaster themselves to implement a system like this. But in my opinion, like I know people who are like diehard Dublin fans, especially in hurling, that like they genuinely go to every single Dublin hurling game. And I was chatting to them, and like, how depressing is this? Like, I'm chatting to them at the bar, kind of in the club, like before the semi-final, and I think one of them was saying to me, like, he was like, if Dublin beat Cork on the weekend, we've no fucking hope of getting a ticket for the final. Like, I was just like, that is ridiculous. Like, these are the type of people that go away to league games, like up in Antrim and stuff, like long, hard trips in the winter, like to go watch the Dubs. Like, they're die-hard Dublin fans. And I would just put that we should have a system where you can log what games you've been to, and you can log how many games you've been to. Sort of like, you know how Strava, for example, they have like, you know, the running, and you can log what runs you did. You should be able to log what GA games you've been to. And then if you've been to every single game throughout the year, if you've been to a ton of games throughout the year, or definitely more than people who were figuring out where Croke Park was just in time for the All-Ireland final, if you've been to more games and been a die-hard fan, you should be boosted way up the list ahead of these people so that you are more likely to get a ticket. Because the other thing is that if you have the more die-hard fans you can get into the stadium, the better the atmosphere will be as well, the better the crowd will be, the better the occasion will be, and the more it will mean to people. And like, I mean, it's the people's game at the end of the day, and you can't forget that like those people are the backbone of the GAA. Like, those diehard fans are probably those GAA fans are probably the type that volunteer with their local club, you know, that take teams and for training sessions and everything like that. So putting in a system that rewards people like that, rewards our volunteers with a better chance of getting a ticket, rewards diehard fans by being boosted up the queue. If there's any way we can implement that, that would be one thing that I would do.
Exactly. So it is a debate that will roll on throughout the week, no doubt about it. I suppose the clock is against us, lads, so we'll have to go on with the Joe McDonagh Cup Team of the Year. That was announced in the last week or so as well. So Colin Dunn from Laois was in goal. Obviously, you could remember his incredible double save against Kildare in the final. Paul Doyle from Carlow in the full back line alongside Rian Bourne and Simon Lacey from the eventual winners Kildare. Padraig Delaney from Laois, Cian Bourne from Kildare, and Dermot Conway from Laois is the half-back line. James Burke and Cathal McCabe make up the midfield, both Kildare men. You have Paddy Purcell from Laois, Tomás Keys from Laois, and David Qualter from Kildare, the top scorer in the Joe McDonagh Cup this year, and the top scorer overall in the hurling. In the top scorer for the football was David Clifford. Top scorer for the hurling was David Qualter, so he absolutely deserves a nomination there. And the full forward line, you have Martin Mouse Kavanagh from Carlow, you have Jack Sheridan from Kildare, and Chris Nolan from Carlow. Obviously, Chris Nolan was the top scorer for play in the Joe McDonagh Cup, utterly deserved award winner as well. I suppose, Liam, fair enough team there. Kildare got 7 nominees there. Laois got 5 and Carlow got 3. The 3 dominant teams in the competition, so you couldn't really have any complaints there.
No, you really couldn't. And it's no disrespect to the other 3 teams in Down, Kerry and Westmeath, but they were never really going to get anyone in there. Maybe you could have, if you were to make one maybe case, you could say Cillian Doyle from Westmeath potentially, because he's by far and wide Westmeath's best player. But realistically, given the performances of a lot of these players this year, like, I mean, David Qualter this year was absolutely sensational for Kildare. I thought Cian Bourne, I actually would give one of the Bournes, probably Cian, I'd give one of them the player of the year, to be honest. I thought they were absolutely sensational for Kildare this year. I thought, especially for Naas as well, the way they defend, like the Bournes in that Joe McDonagh final were absolutely sensational. They absolutely tore the Laois attack apart. I don't think Laois got much from play in that first half. You know, like they were so dominant there. Obviously, Tomás Keys, he's going to be playing in the Laois final for Camross this weekend. Top class player. Jack Sheridan tore up the championship this year as well. As one of the most talented hurlers in the country. Really, if he was in any other county, you know, he'd be pushing for a starting place. James Burke was excellent as well for Kildare this year as well. And I mean, I mean, Martin Kavanagh and Chris Nolan are just, it's a shame in a way for their perspective that they are, look, I know they obviously love being from Carlow, but they're the types of players that you would love to see competing for the so-called bigger counties. Do you know what I mean? Like they're unbelievable hurlers. But yeah, no, for me, it looks like a solid team, to be fair. I wouldn't make too many changes to it, really. If I was to be picking hurler of the year, I can't decide between the two of them at the moment, but I would give it to one of the Borns. I thought they were absolutely fantastic. I don't think they win the Joe McDonagh without one of those this year.
Interesting opinion there, I suppose. So I'll go to you, Aaron, on this one. David Qualter, top scorer overall in the hurling this year, whereas Liam says one of the Borns will get player of the year, and Peter in the comments said Qualter probably should get player of the year. So what's your opinion on that? I think we're all in agreement Kildare players should get the player of the year, but which one do you think it should be, one of the Borns or Qualter?
100%. Yeah, I probably would go for Qualter as well. To be honest with you, like phenomenal this season, as you were saying previously, like absolutely outstanding. But no, I do agree as well with one of the Borns, like especially Rian Bourne. Like he was outstanding in the final. Was absolutely brilliant. So you could edge towards him. Like one player who maybe was a little bit unlucky to miss out on the team I was looking at it there was James Duggan. I did think he was very impressive from a Laois perspective. He was a little bit unlucky. But no, I probably would go with David Qualter. To be honest with you, but I do agree with Liam's point as well. I think both Keane and Rian Bourne were brilliant. Look, Simon Lacey at cornerback as well was outstanding. But probably would go with David Qualter there.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a very good Joe McDonagh Cup team of the year, and you'd imagine one of the Kildare boys will get the player of the year eventually. A comment in here as well from Peter. Qualter was injured for the county final as well, badly missed by Maynooth, and who knows if Maynooth might have had him. Potentially, Nace's throttle might have stopped there in terms of Kildare winning the Kildare championship there. But the lower tier hurling team of the year was also announced. This is a combination of the Christy Ring, the Nicky Rackard, and the Larry Marr in terms of team of the year. So in goal for this team was Enda Lawless from Roscommon, obviously the Nicky Rackard champions. Mark War from Roscommon was cornerback. The Christy Ring champions got their first nomination at fullback, with London getting Conor Byrne, and then Mayo got Oisin Greeley at the other corner. Enda Egan from London, Conor Cosgrove from Roscommon, and Rory O'Menon from Derry got in the half-back line. You have Daniel Huan from Mayo and Eamon Conway from Derry. Liam O'Brien from Cavan got in the number 10 position. Then you have Sean Glynn from London at number 11, and David Mangan from New York at number 12. That was the Laurie Marr's champions only nomination there. Sean Canning from Roscommon, Padraig Dodd from Wicklow, and Liam Lavin from Mayo finishing off the team. I suppose, Seamus, one name that is incredibly omitted out of this, and I will say this: the Christy Ring top scorer overall and for play this year, Cormac O'Doherty from Shotneel and Derry. Where is he? I genuinely don't know what he had to do to get into this team. I do realise London won the competition and fairly and squarely, but surely you have to award individual players for their brilliance. So I think the main omission there, in my opinion anyway, Cormac O'Doherty. But what is your opinions there, James?
Yeah, he's a surprise absence. I mean, because anytime we're talking about these teams and anytime that we're giving out the awards, the criteria that you always put across is who had the biggest impact on the competition. And I agree with what Liam was talking about with the Borns. I personally would give it to Rian Bourne for the John McDonagh Player of the Year. He was absolutely outstanding, Rian Bourne. And I don't think Kildare win the John McDonagh without him. And I don't think Derry have the success that they had this year without Cormac O'Doherty. I mean, top scorer, not just from, overall, but as you said, from play there as well. So without him, do Derry have the season that they had? Probably not. So it is interesting that he isn't included in the side. That being said, it is really, really difficult to... They're brave in terms of the way that they combine the three competitions, because then what's the criteria? How many players do you include from Christy Ring? How many do you include from Nicky Rackard and Laurie Matt? And is there a set? Are they allowed only because 15 players? Is it 5 from each that get in, or how is it? Because it's really, really difficult to do, because obviously they're playing against different standards as well. Cormac O'Doherty being top scorer in the Christy Ring, though, which is the highest competition out of the three. I mean, that's got to count for something, right? He should have been in. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the general reaction is to it. But yeah, surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Peter saying in here, lads, how many selectors are there for the panel to select these teams? I'm actually not sure. And All Stars is saying, I'm actually not sure about that. But I don't know, do any of you lads know? But It's kind of a difficult number to comprehend there. But I suppose as well, Seamus made a very good point, Liam, about the competitions and how many do you include. I counted there, Laurie Maher only has 2 selections. That's from Cavan and New York, obviously. Obviously, with New York, that's kind of an enigma. New York only played 2 games this year and won the Laurie Maher, which was probably an extraordinary event in many ways. Cavan only getting 1, maybe a bit harsh there. And there was more Nicky Rackard players. Correct me if I'm wrong now, but I think there was more Nicky Rackard players than there was Christy Ring as well. So I don't know, like it's a difficult one to comprehend how you'd kind of make it all together.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be picking a teams based off these 3 competitions. You know, it'd be like going over to England and picking a starting 11 team of the year from the Championship, League 1, League 2. Do you know what I mean? You'd be thinking to yourself, why is that fair? Do you know, like you should be given your own respective league, your own respective competition, the respect that it deserves, and handing up. Like I could imagine there's a couple of players from Cavan. There's probably going to be a couple of players from some of the other Nicky Rackard teams thinking to themselves, we did a lot this year. Why aren't we getting, you know, recognized the same way as, you know, the John McDonough maybe is, or the All Ireland teams are? So I don't know. I wouldn't want to be picking a 15 of players from 3 different competitions. And like you mentioned there, 2 players from the one competition out of the 3 seems a bit disrespectful. I was counting them there, and 7 from Nicky Rackard and 6 from Christy Ring, and then Laurie Maher just gets 2. It seems a little bit harsh, to be honest with you. Like you mentioned there, look, it's hard to pick because at the end of the day, Christy Ring is, when you're in these competitions, you want to be playing in the Christy Ring, of course you do. But it's a strange one for me. I personally don't think picking a starting 15 from the 3 competitions is fair. I think they should all get their own respective one, but I don't know. Maybe it's just the way it is, and maybe we just have to keep getting used to it. I don't know, but I would be changing it up, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. So just before we get on to the stop the bus in terms of the club fixtures this weekend, Aaron, your opinions on it? Do you think there should be 3 different teams of the year, or would you keep it kind of the same way with 3 combined?
Yeah, I would prefer 3 separate teams, to be honest with you, like just to give the respect that each competition deserves, you know, that way. But I feel like it's one of them where, from a GA's perspective, like maybe it's too much work for them, you know, to put together three separate teams, or something of that nature. I don't know, like maybe people wouldn't look at the teams, maybe it wouldn't get as much traction or something like that if they didn't have three separate teams. But yeah, no, I'd probably have separate teams. Like having them all together, look, it is good that these players get recognition. Maybe if there was a bit more clarity on how many players you could pick and everything else, but it does feel like they have just kind of, you know, picked a couple of random players and put them all together. And as you said, they left out the best player. So
the one thing is though, Leslie, just before we move on from this point, sorry to butt in, Aaron, but I was at the launch for the finals, and like these teams are always picked by journalists and they're always picked by like people that, you know, watch the games and everything. The pre-media event for all of the finals, by the way, for the Christy Ring final, for the Nicky Rackard and the Laurie Maher, there was like nobody there. Like genuinely, there was, I mean this, there was about 6 people there. Like they're just, you know, there was no widespread representation from each of the media organizations. Like some of the big ones, I'm not naming names, obviously, but you know, there was some big ones that weren't there, that didn't have anyone there. So if it's journalists that are selecting the teams, you know, are journalists really paying attention to the games? And then therefore, can they really select a team? So that's tapping in, Liam, that's tapping into a wider problem, which is they're not really watching all of these games. Therefore, how can they pick an all-star team for them when it's done? Like, and that taps into a problem where we need to have more people actually covering these games, and that's where we're going to come in. So maybe we'll be picking these teams in a year.
Yeah. What are we saying there, Liam?
No, I was only agreeing, and I was only going to make the point. I can remember the Louth and the Fermanagh manager. I believe it was after the league final they played earlier on the year, and they'd said it themselves. I believe wasn't that game played at a club ground, and there was no lines drawn, or there was no lines turned up, or something like that. You know, and that just shows you at times the respect that they do get at this sort of level, you know. And I can remember Michael Fenley calling it out a couple of years ago when Offaly were down there. Like, you know, he said it himself. He'd said it kind of opened his own eyes to a degree as well about the level down there, because he would have obviously never maybe seen that level. Obviously, being a Kilkenny man, you know, he wouldn't have been tuning into it maybe too much. But then having seen it himself, it opened his eyes to realize, Jesus, like, these lads don't get a lot of respect. They don't get a lot of attention, or they don't get a lot of support from people. So it is something that is going to have to change. You know, people are going to have to start going out and supporting these lads and giving them the time that they deserve, because at the end of the day, they're working just as hard, and probably in a way maybe even harder than, say, you know, their football counterparts to a degree. Because obviously you take a Monaghan, for example, you take a Tyrone, obviously everyone's going to turn out from those counties for their football matches. But if even half those people turn out for some of their hurling matches and gave them a bit of support, it'd be going such a long way. But I don't know. Yeah, there's a bigger issue there than even we realize. But I'm just hoping it gets sorted soon, because these players and these counties deserves a lot more respect, in my opinion.
Exactly. So when said Gavin on the last point here, how many Roscommon hurlers got nominations? It was 4, Gavin. So a good team selection there from Rossi's point of view. Peter saying this is a topic that William Marr, the new head of hurling development, should be flagging absolutely. And considering he was manager of Laois there as well, you would imagine that's more of a reason to go after it from his point of view. But we will move on to
the weekend. Do you remember, lads, they were going to cut them? Like, they were going to cut the teams.
Yeah.
Like that's not long. That's not long ago at all. That was what, 2022,
something like that. Yeah.
It was very recent.
It was discussed earlier in the year as well, wasn't it? I think it was mentioned again.
Yeah, just absolutely stupid idea. So So look, it needs investment, and it needs investment quick. And the thing is hurling's also missed right now. It has a problem where the top product is so good. Like, the Munster Championship is so good. The Leinster Championship, I think, over the last couple of years has been very entertaining as well. The quality of the championship probably isn't on the same level as the Munster Championship, but like, the competitiveness between the teams has been really, really good. But like, you've seen Antrim making great strides, and then they don't quite get that investment, and now they're after slipping down to the John McDonough. And is that going to, disappear now? Kerry were making great strides, and now they're coming unstuck. Like, once a team shows signs of making progress, the GA need to back these teams, because the more teams that we can have dining at the top table, the better. And like, one day I'd be hoping, like, and this isn't meant as a disrespect, but one day I'd be hoping that we have no need for any, second tier competitions. I'd be hoping that one day all 32 teams are, good enough to go right in there and compete against each other. I'd be hoping that one day that Leitrim, Sligo, Roscommon, Mayo, that they're all strong enough that Galway can go over and compete in Connacht again. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'd be hoping for. So it'd be interesting to see. And I think with Derry and Down and all that, like, an Ulster Hurling Championship would be really interesting, I think. Like, so there's a lot there for hurling over the next few years if the investment comes and if the teams improve. But that respect is what the players, and I'll be pretty annoyed if they bring that up again about cutting teams. It's the worst idea I think I've ever heard from the GA.
Hopefully that's a thing of the distant past, without a doubt, and we will discuss it in further detail in the next few weeks, I'm sure. But we will move on to the weekend's action now, and we will do the same as we've been doing over the last few weeks, the stop the bus kind of function we've been doing over the last few weeks. So here we go, lads. This is the list of fixtures that's happening this weekend. So we have 2 fixtures on Friday, starting things off. That is the Tyrone Senior Football Championship semi-final replay between Loch McCrory and Carrickmore. The winners of this play Trillick in the Tyrone final. You then have the Derry or the Dublin Senior Camogie final between St. Vincent's and there you go. That's the first stop we're going to, and it's the Dublin Senior Camogie final between St. Vincent's and Luke Sarsfields. Seamus, take it away.
Yeah, I'll take this one, lads. I am on commentary for it, so I better say a couple of words about it. Look, it's going to be an amazing game. Luke and Sarsfields and St. Vincent's. Interestingly, both sides. So Lucan beat Ballybowden St. Enda's in their semi-final, which was a big surprise. Like, Ballybowden would have been one of the hot favourites to win the Dublin Camogie Championship. Lucan are very much on the come up, and they're going for their first ever Dublin Camogie title. Vincent's, as I said, are going for 4 in a row. But interestingly, Ballybowden beat Vincent's in round 1, and St. Jude's beat Lucan in round 1. And then Vincent's beat Jude's in their semi-final, and Lucan beat Ballybowden. So they're both coming into this final having beaten teams that beat their upcoming opponents in this final. And obviously St. Vincent's are carrying in. It's a very similar dynamic to the LGFA Dublin final, in that you had Kilmacud going for 4 in a row, just like Vincent's are the dominant team in Dublin Camogie right now. And Sills are going for their first LGFA title. So are Lucan in the Camogie. They're looking for their first ever Camogie title in the county. So there's a lot on the line tomorrow night. It's going to be a cracking game. Yeah, I will be. So I'll be on the Dubs GA TV stream. It's going to be pretty good. Hopefully no storm this time. But yeah, should be pretty good. Looking forward to it.
Should be absolutely an interesting Dublin Camogie final there to look forward to. I suppose with Seamus and Aaron, I'm going to throw you off the bus for the next pick. This is on Saturday. It's the Dublin Senior 1 Football Championship final between Ballybowden, St. Enda's and Nafina. This is also live on TG Car on Saturday evening. So, seeing as Seamus discuss the Camogie, we'll move to Aaron for football, starting things off. So, Aaron, should be a very interesting game. 2 sides that probably wouldn't be expected to be here, considering their semi-final opponents. But the winner here, it'll be massive celebrations, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, should be an absolute cracker of a game. There's no question about it. Like, as I was saying, kind of at the start, like Nafina were beaten by Ballybowden by 17 points earlier in the year. So it's been, and like Nafina's journey in general to the final has been nothing short of remarkable, really. Like, if they actually do go and win on Saturday, I think it will go down as one of the best Dublin Championship wins in recent memory. Like, to be 11 points down versus Ballymun in the quarterfinals, to dog it out the way that they did versus Crokes as well. Like, they were behind multiple times in that game. James Doran gets a late winner. So I think it would go down as one of the greatest championship wins of all time if they do get this over the line, considering what happened to them earlier in the season as well. You can't sleep on Ballybowden though, like, and I know like Seamus will agree on this as well. Like, Ballybowden have always been there. Like, they have always been there. Like, they've always been a contender. They've just, for whatever reason, it's never been that they didn't have the players. It's always felt more like a mentality issue with them. Like, they would go 5-6 points down in a big game, and then their heads would go and they just completely fall apart, and they'd be cut adrift. But coming into this final, they're in, obviously what they did versus Cúilín, coming from behind. They were very impressive that day. You'd be looking at Dara Sweeney and Keane Darcy in around the middle to kind of do the business there. But I don't know. I kind of fancy Nafina, to be honest with you. I think like the amount of resilience that they've shown, I think they'll have enough to get over the line. And yeah, I think they'll do it.
You may take that Ballybowden jersey off the wall then.
It's reverse jinx, guys. Come on.
I thought you were getting up for a second to go. Yeah.
Chris, you here for
St. Vincent's. St. Vincent's in the football. But they weren't at the races at all this year. They lost all 3 of their group games, finished bottom of their group. But I expect something more from them because they do have fantastic players. Vincent's, the likes of Sean Lowry and other Dublin caliber players. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. But talking about this Dublin final is going to be absolutely unbelievable. Like, you've got a rematch between Ballybowden and Nafina. As Aaron was saying, they played each other the first day out. Bowden had it all their way that day. But the way that Nafina have rallied, like the grit and determination that they showed in the semi-final against Kilmacud Crokes, epitomised by Johnny Cooper having to be told to get off the pitch when he had blood pouring out of his head. I mean, fairly summed it up. They were just not going to be beaten that day. And to turn over a side like Kilmacud Crokes sent a message, not just to Ballybowden, but sent a message across the country that if Nafina get out of this game, if they get through this game, they are to be taken seriously for honours beyond the Dublin Championship, because turning over a team like Kilmacud, who've been consistently there at the top table, is a serious achievement. Ballybowden, on the other hand, they've been fantastic throughout this Dublin Championship. Dara Sweeney has been absolutely electric up front. 2 goals in the final few minutes against Cúilín turned the game on its head. And to beat the All-Ireland champions, like, the confidence they'll have going into this final will be through the roof. they won't take Na Fianna lightly. There's no question about it. They know themselves. That game, yes, while it went all their way that day, it's not going to repeat itself. They're going to have to fight tooth and nail to win this one. And Na Fianna stand at the doorstep of an incredible achievement. They're in the Dublin hurling final as well. They'll be favourites for that. And if they can pull that off on top of pulling off a sensational win in the football, it's the type of achievement that comes around, once in a generation. You very, very rarely do a double in the county unless you're Naas and then you do 5 in a row. But genuinely, it's really, really hard to do, especially in Dublin. I know Kilmacud could have done it, but then they joined the elite clubs in terms of having achieved that incredible achievement. So there's no question about it. They stand on the doorstep of history. But I've gone with Ballybowden from the get-go. I've said from the very beginning that I thought Ballybowden would win the Leinster Championship, never mind just the Dublin. So I am going to stick with Bowden. The fight that they showed in the semi-final against Cúilín was amazing. They're 7 points down with 5 minutes to go. I thought the game was done. And then 2 goals from Dara Sweeney and they knock out the All-Ireland champions. So it's going to go down to the wire. And Aaron's right in terms of saying that the last final Bowden were in, they really flattered to deceive. But I think under these new rules, their forwards are thriving. And I really, really think it could go either way. But I'm going to stick with what I've said from the get-go, and that's Bowden to shade it.
I'll tell you what, Seamus, if Bowden win, I know we mightn't be able to do it on Sunday, but if we are around Monday, I'll wear the Ballybowden jersey. How about that?
Hey.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Haven't seen here. Cúilín did well last year, but a lot of control. The neutrals be thinking won't be an experienced Dublin team in Leinster, and the All-Ireland series in recent years should be very, very interesting. Yeah, and we'd echo that point, Gavin. In terms of just a side note before we leave the Dublin final, in terms of Seamus saying it is a historic achievement in doing a double for the Fianna, I don't think so, but we'll move swiftly on from that.
Out, lads.
I'm sorry, lads. No, I'm cutting the crap here. Look, it's 2 separate teams. It's 2 separate teams. Like, I'm sorry, no, but you have clubs up and down the country, like a lot more Castleknock, like in Naas, like in Newcestown, like a Slotneil, that play predominantly the same group of players, and they don't get thought about as much. I'm sorry, no, but like, it's 2 separate teams. It's a big city club. They're from Movie Road, just down the road from Croke Park. No, I'm not having it. No, I'm not. But anyway, we'll move swiftly on from that. The Kerry Senior Football Championship semi-final, Rathmore against Austin Sacks, should be a very interesting game. This one, obviously, Austin Sacks have the likes of Ben Murphy and Joe O'Connor on the middle of the field. Side note, Ben Murphy is actually going to be an AFL player apparently next season. So should be some adventure for him, some loss for Kerry, but should be a very interesting game considering Rathmore hammered East Kerry in the quarterfinal.
He's under 20.
He's under 20.
He's under 20. Jesus.
Yeah.
He's already gone. Yeah, Kerry have been really screwed over by players going to Australia. Killian Burke, Mark O'Connor. Like, even before that, like Nelly, Tommy Walsh.
And they're still doing okay without them.
Yeah. I don't really
take David Clifford, have they heard of him? Or
Just on a side note as well, bit of trivia about Ben Murphy. He actually played in the schools competition in Munster Hogan, the Kearney Vree last school year. So he was in 6th year last year. So it's absolutely mad. It really is. He's some player. He really is a really good player. It was very good this year last year for Mercy Mounthawk in that team with Paddy Lane, who's also on the Austin Sacks team as well at corner forward. So they have a plethora of young options coming through, but can they get the job done against Rathmore with that young team? We'll have to see. The Galway Senior Hurling Championship semi-finals are also on Saturday. St. Thomas's against Crockwell and Loughrea against Turlough. So 2 very interesting semi-finals there. The Fermanagh Senior Football Championship final, it's between Derry Gonley Harps and Erin Gales Beliek. So Derry Gonley probably will be going as favourites for that one. The Tipperary Senior Football Championship semi-final is between Lockmore Castleknock and Kilsheen and Kilcash. The Waterford Senior Football Championship semi-final is between Denier and Gaultier. The Munster Senior LGFA quarterfinal, it's Comer Rangers from Waterford against Erogue from Cork. I'll stop the bus there for a sec as well on Erogue. They beat Ada last week in the Cork Senior LGFA final last weekend. And interestingly, we talk about duels with Nafina. Maeve Callan, Orla Callan, and Kay Callan played in the Erogue team on the Saturday and St. Finbarr's Camogie team on the Sunday, winning 2 county titles in 2 days in senior level. That's exceptional stuff. They are absolutely a brilliant family in terms of dual commitments and everything like that. So they should be given a lot of their flowers. Obviously, and Gran is on the Camogie team as well. But Erogue are coming up against a very good Comer Rangers team this weekend who battered Ballymacarbery in the Waterford final. So should be a very interesting game in the quarterfinal this weekend there. In the Kilkenny Senior Camogie final, you have Dixborough against Piltown. In the Tipperary Senior Camogie final, you have Turles Sarsfields against Clonoughty Rossmore. The Clare Senior Camogie final is between Trua Clonlara and Oina Kilnamona. The Down Senior Camogie final is between Clonduff and St. Pat's Portaferry. In Armagh, the Camogie final there between Crossmaglen Rangers and Grainmore. In the Cavan Camogie final, it's Lacan against Den. In the Meath Camogie final, it's Nafina against Kilmessan. And in the Roscommon Camogie final, it's Oran against St. Dominic. Just to mention as well, there's provincial games in LGFA as well. In the Leinster Intermediate LGFA quarterfinals, you have Screen from Meath against Killanneran from Wexford. Aero Greystones from Wicklow against Killow from Longford. Ballina from Kildare against Great Cullen from Laois. Goldsmiths from Westmeath against St. Fecans from Louth. So that's the 4 quarterfinals there. The Ulster Intermediate LGFA preliminary quarterfinals between Carryduff from Down and Knockbride from Cavan. The Leinster Junior LGFA quarterfinals is between St. Mary's from Wexford and Muckalee from Kilkenny. You've O'Leckland from Carlow coming up against St. Columkills from Meath. Raheny from Dublin up against Dramar from Longford. And Kileshan from Laois against AJB from Wicklow. So 4 different quarterfinals there. The Ulster Junior LGFA preliminary quarterfinal is Cloudy from Derry against O'Donovan Rossa from Antrim. And finally on Saturday, the Connacht Junior LGFA quarterfinal between Swinford from Mayo and Anna Duff from Leitrim. Some very interesting games there. Peter's coming in with a comment. Aussie scouts apparently keep their eyes on Kobe MacDonald as well. So it should be very interesting to see if he goes down. And Killow and Longford, their 3 adult teams are in the final. Were in the final last weekend. That's how to do it. But we'll move swiftly on there as well. On Sunday, starting off the Cork Premier Senior Hurling Championship final between Sarsfield and Middleton. That's live on RT2 this Sunday from 3:15 in Super Valley Park, Keith. I'm going to stay at the corner of the bus for this one. I'm going to be quiet as a mouse. I'm part of
I think Matthew's getting a taxi there.
Taxi. I put up the stats and everything like that on my own page. I tag Cúilín as well, lads. So I'll go to Liam on this one first. Very interesting final between Stars and Middleton.
Yeah, and I'm kind of stuck in the middle here because you're doing the stats with Sarsfields. One of my best friends from college is from Middleton, so I'm kind of stuck in the middle here. But I'm delighted to see the two of you in the final again. I think it's going to be a cracking decider. I suppose Middleton this season maybe haven't been going as well as maybe they have over the last couple of years, and it's not taking away their victories that they've had, but they've probably not been performing to the same levels as they have been over the last couple of years. And when you look at this weekend and you look at the 2 players that they're missing, and especially the big one is Conor Lahan, like that's a big miss for Middleton. I mean, he gets you 13, 14 points a game. You saw the free he got the last day as well, essentially on 1 foot as well, and the distance he was out getting it as well. It's a big challenge for Middleton this weekend. They haven't won the title since 2021, going up against a Sarsfield team who were winners in 23, obviously beating finalists in Cork last year. But when you look at the McKitty team that they were bet by last year, like I don't think they can really take any shame in that. And then go on to win the Munster title against Ballygunner, reach the All-Ireland final. It's a big task this weekend for Middleton. But you got to give it to both sides as well. The way they both came back in their respective semi-finals. And you look at some of the players that they both have on display for this weekend. I mean, look, Owen Maloney and Conor Lahan are big misses for Middleton. There's no question about that. And then you look at the players that Sarsfields possess, the likes of O'Regan, Pa White, Cormac Bussong, they're for Middleton, sorry. But the players for Sarsfield, your Jack O'Connors, who could light up this final, especially playing in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, you know. So it's a big task for Middleton. They're the outsiders for this one. I feel like Sarsfields, look, John, it's probably in a way a bit of a nuisance for Sarsfields too, knowing that two of Middleton's best players are out to a degree, you know, sometimes that can kind of throw you off, because obviously they would have had a long-term plan for Conor Lehane, but obviously with him out now, his replacement coming in, you're thinking, right, okay, what's he going to do, or where are they going to get their, you know, 10, 11, 12 points from in this game now? They're going to have to get it from someone else. Someone else is going to have to step up for them. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be a very interesting final. But I just feel, and I apologize, Jack McKay, if you're listening. Hopefully you're not. But I just feel with the two players being out, Conor Lehane really does carry that Middleton team massively. And I think Matthew's going to be a very happy boy come Sunday evening. I'm going to give Sarsfields the nod by 4 points. And you have had the edge over them over the last couple of years as well. And I think it's going to probably continue this weekend.
Interesting pick there from Liam, I suppose. Seamus, your opinions on this? Decent enough game, and it's live on RT as well, which probably should be a good game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a class game, and there's no question about it. When Liam's talking about Lehane being out, I mean, if you're to pick one player that could do the most damage, probably in the game, to be honest, you know, it was Conor Lehane. Like, I mean, he's the obvious standout player on the team sheets, and him being gone is a loss to the game in total. Never mind just for Middleton. But when Liam's saying, it's a good point as well about now someone else is going to have to step up, but there's no way to sugarcoat it from Middleton. It's just a massive blow. Like, there's Sars would be skipping around the dressing room after hearing that he's not going to be playing this game. Obviously, they wouldn't want any serious harm to come to him, but like the fact that he's gone, it's a massive ace now in the pack for Sarsfields in this game. Stars have unfinished business. I know that actually can't really talk, but just looking at it, when you lose an All-Ireland final, it's always the test of a team to see how strong you come back. And Sars have been really, really strong so far this year. Now, obviously, it's really, really hard to get back there. But the drive and the determination that Sars are showing so far is impressive. And personally, I think going into the game, I was 50-50. I couldn't make my mind up between who I thought was going to win. These games always go down to the wire, but without Conor Lehane, Middleton wouldn't have got to the final, in my opinion. So I firmly believe Sars is going to take this one.
Should be a very interesting game, and definitely a very interesting one for the neutral to look on at on RT at the weekend. Also on Sunday, if the Limerick Senior Hurling Championship final between Doon and the Piercing.
Stop the bus.
Thanks, Liam. Thank you very much. I was going to stop the bus there because just an interesting.
Get back on the bus,
Matthew. Anyway, just an interesting note on this game. This game is not shown on RT or TG4 this weekend. Bit of a shame considering like both of them had a really good battle last year. Obviously, Doon came out on top there, winning their first Limerick title, if not ever, in a long, long time. Over the Piercing team that were dominant in Limerick over the last few years. But this should be a very, very interesting final.
Yeah, it is a shame that it's not on RTE. It was on TG4 last year. I was at this final last year, covering it for the Limerick Voice, and have to say, really, really enjoyed it. It was great to be there to see Doon winning their first title. Went down to Limerick just before I started my job with Midlands in the summer, and I was chatting to a fella down there at Limerick Wexford playing in the Camogie Championship, and he said to me that over the next couple of years, it's going to be Doon and the Piercing dominating the Limerick Championship, and lo and behold, here they are in the final at the first final since that conversation. And yeah, look, I think it's going to be a fantastic final. Last year's one went right down to the wire, and I don't see this being any different. I've obviously backed Doon to win the Munster Championship, and the reason I did is just because I just think they have a lot of really solid players, and they have a solid manager there too in Derek McGrath. You know, he's really integrated himself really well with the Doon community, you know, and he has them playing some really, really nice hurling. And I mean, when you've got players in your team like Pat Ryan, when you've got players in your team like Barry Murphy, when you've got players in your team like Adam English, who is Adam English is a fella that will probably he would have been a worthy potential hurler of the year had Limerick gone on and won the All-Ireland this year. You know, had they got past Dublin, obviously to the delight of these two, they didn't. But yeah, like when you have players like that in your team, I know in appears they have some really good players themselves. They've obviously Shane Dowling, they've the Caseys, Mike Casey at the back, and Peter Casey up front. But I just have a feeling Doon, I've backed them to win the Munster Championship, so I'm going to continue to back them this weekend. I think they're on the hunt to try and go on a bit of a dominant run in Limerick. And yeah, it is a shame that it's not on TG4 or RT, and obviously they're not signed a club, or it is on Limerick TV, so at least it's being shown somewhere. But yeah, a strange one that's not been shown anywhere, and it is a final I would have maybe liked to have watched back maybe after our own one Sunday. But look, regardless, I think it's going to be a repeat of last year. I think it's going to go right down to the wire. Only this time I think Doon's going to do it by 3 points. They did it by 1 last year. I think they're going to do it by 3 this year, and I expect Adam English to light up the Gaelic grounds once again.
Exactly, so it should be a very interesting game between the two sides that are on top tier of Limerick hurling without a doubt. Moving on Sunday as well, Derry Senior Football Championship finalists between O'Donovan Ross of Magherafelt and Sean O'Leary's Newbridge. I suppose I'm going to stop the bus at this one because there was a controversy during the week on Shotneil debating a 2-pointer, should it have been a 2-pointer, should it have been a 1-pointer or something like that. And obviously it fell short. That means Sean O'Leary's Newbridge aren't the final without any escapes or anything like that. But I'll go to you on this one. Is that ideal preparation for the likes of Newbridge to get that kind of commentary during the week, and now they're going straight to a final? I think the controversy brushed under the carpet maybe this morning or yesterday evening. That's hardly good preparation going to the final.
It could be, yeah, but it's also that thing of, look what these lads are saying about you. Look what everyone's saying about you, siege mentality type thing. I think they'll nearly even use it in their favor as well, to be honest with you. I thought some of the commentary around it was just really, really silly. Like, I thought it was poor from Slotneil a little bit as well, to be honest with you. Like, looking at it, it's like, yeah, fair enough. Like, it's on the line. Like, it probably was a 2-pointer. In fairness, but like, it was, from looking at the replays, it wasn't clear cut. And I think Cahir O'Kane even as well. Like, he put something out as well, like not long after, highlighting lots of decisions that went the way of Slotneil in the game as well. So, yeah, look, I think, to be honest, they'll use that to their advantage. It's obviously not been handy maybe for county, for club boards and the higher ups, the management, to kind of be dealing with those problems. But I think at the same time, they'll use that as a vengeance, and they'll be pinning those, what people have set up on the wall, that type thing. And, straight away, if Sean O'Leary's get over the line on Sunday, what the post-match speech is going to be, it's going to be about what people said about them. So, I think they'll just use that in their arsenal, really. Yeah,
absolutely. And I suppose they said that last year as well, so history could definitely repeat itself. But Magherafelt will be out to win this game as well. Commenting here from Jack Nolte, great weekend indeed. So we're looking forward to the Westmeath Senior Hurling final. We'll get onto that in a sec, Jack. Back on the bus again, the Mayo Senior Football Championship final leaves Ballinlass Stephenites against Westport. That is the Mayo Senior Football Championship final. No stoppers there. Okay, we'll move on. The Kerry Senior Football Championship semi-final between Dingle and Mid-Kerry. A quite interesting game there. And if Mid-Kerry lose this one, Dr. Groves are all the Munster Championship. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. It should be a very interesting game there. The Down Senior Football Championship final is between Kilcoo and Kerry Duff. Okay, let's go, Aaron. Kilcoo.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think this is an interesting one because I think there is a potential shock on the cards here. Like Kilcoo are bidding for 7 in a row. They're bidding for 13 titles in the last 14 years. Kerry Duff have actually never won a county title in Down before. But looking at Kilcoo at times this year, like they needed a last minute point against Clonduff the last day from Calum Doherty. And I think there's a potential shock on the cards here, to be honest with you. Kerry Duff have got some very interesting players, the likes of Jack and Daniel Guinness are in there. So I think they've got some James and Daniel Guinness. I think they've got some very interesting players, and yeah, no, I think they could cause a bit of a shock. Like Kilcoo have actually lost a lot of their more senior players. They still do have the likes of Ryan Johnston and Sheelan Johnson, Michael Kane, these lads, but I don't know. I think that with Kilcoo, like looking at a lot of the results, they are one of them teams that keeps on finding a way to get over the line and down. But I just have a feeling that Kerry Duff might upset them this weekend.
We'll have to see what happens there. Like if Kilcoo go out, who honestly is going to win the Ulster Championship? It's so wide open if Kilcoo actually go out this weekend. If it wasn't wide open already, the Kildare Senior Football Championship final, that's between Naas and Athy. That's an interesting final there as well. Liam, I'll push you off the bus for this one here. It is the Offaly Senior Hurling Championship final. Cormac, your own club, obviously, against Shane Rowan. Quite an interesting game live at TG Car on Sunday. Take it away.
Yeah, it's the third time in 4 years that we're meeting each other. It'd be fair to say that we've been the two best sides in Offaly over the last 4 or 5 years. It's a very interesting final, very much looking forward to it. A lot of people obviously ranking us as favourites, and look, I suppose it's fair enough, but at the same time, you know, this is a final that's 50-50 in my eyes. Shinrone bet us in 22 fair and square. We bet them in 23 fair and square. We played them earlier on in the group stages and ended up as a draw. And quite honestly, we came out of that lucky with a draw, to be honest, which Shinrone, in my opinion, were far better than us on that day. Which is going to be a very interesting final. Obviously, you have the likes from ourselves. You have the likes of Charlie Mitchell in there. You've Adam Screeney, you've Jack Screeney, Colin Spain, James Mahan, Brecon Kavanagh, etc. These players like that. And then from Shinrone, you've the likes of Killian Sampson, Eamon Cleary, Dara Maher, players like that who'd been in with the Offaly panel over the course of this year. So I think it's going to be a very, very, John, it is, Peter, it honestly could be a 2-point game. I think it's going to go right down to the final 10 minutes. I feel like we could push out in the final few minutes. I feel like we just have more to offer maybe off the bench, but at the same time, Shinrone have improved their squad massively over the last couple of years, and the way they dismantled Belmont in the semi-final was really, really impressive. They were 10 points down to Kildare in the quarterfinals and came back and bet them, which they would have never done in years previous. So no, they're a team that's very, very much improving. Mark Morecambe has them in great shape. But look, I am looking forward to it. It's great that all 3 of our counties have our county finals on TV this weekend, so it's kind of ideal from all of our perspectives. But yeah, no, very much looking forward to it. I will say as well, just aside from that, as much as I do obviously want us to win it, there is one side of me that would be kind of happy to see Shinrone winning it, and that's mainly because earlier this year is the game on Midlands. Yep, Midlands 103 will have commentary. Will O'Callaghan would actually be doing the inside line from the earlier time of 1 p.m. on Sunday. Joe Troy's doing commentary. I'm not quite sure who's doing it with him, but yep, that'll be on Midlands 103, as well as the Laois and Westmeath finals. But earlier this year, Shinrone lost a player in their club called Joe Cleary, who'd passed away very sadly. And what kind of summed up Shinrone for me as a club, and the players as well, was we played Antrim then. A few of those players then went out and played Antrim a couple of days after he had sadly passed away. And Killian Sampson went out against Antrim and he scored 1-3 or something like that. Jason Sampson, his brother, went out, who captained Shinrone in 2022, went out, put in a great performance. Eamon Cleary tugged out, Dara Maher tugged out, Owen Bailey O'Brien, who'll be playing a corner forward this weekend, tugged out for the under-20s. And it just showed me the strength that they have, the mentality that they have, that they're willing to still go out and hurl for their club, you know, especially after such a sad, tragic passing like that. And look, Joe was very much loved in Shinrone, was a great character. Didn't know him too well, but I'd met him once or twice, and he seemed like a lovely chap. He was known as Joe Liffey as well. And yeah, look, it would be the one thing. Look, obviously I want us to win. Of course I do. You know, I don't want us to lose at the end of the day. But if there was one silver lining from Shinrone winning this weekend, it would be nice to see them commemorate, you know, his life with them being able to bring home the Sean Robbins Cup for him. But yeah, it would be nice for them from their perspective. But obviously, look, I do hope we do win this weekend. But yeah, it'll make the final a special occasion anyway.
Definitely a special occasion, a poignant probably occasion as well in the Offaly final, and should be a very good game as well this Sunday. Moving on, we have Laois Senior Hurling Championship final. That's Clonbalaculla against Camross. We have the Westmeath Senior Hurling Championship final, Castletoe-Gagan against Loughlin Gales. In the Antrim Senior Hurling Championship final, you have St. John's against Loughlin Shamrocks. In the Leitrim Senior Football Championship final, it's Ballinamore Sean O'Heslands against Leitrim Gales. The Carlow Senior Football Championship final is between Rathvilly and Old Leckland. In the the London Senior Football Championship final is Tyrd Connell Gales against North London Shamrocks. So that is the finals wrapped up in the football terms anyway. So the Tipperary Senior Football Championship semi-final is Clonmel Commercials against Upper Church Drumban, and the Tipperary Senior Football Championship relegation playoff, Grange Muckler Ballynail against Killinall. So very interesting game there. The Wexford Senior Football Championship semi-finals is Shenmaliers against Killanran, Castletown Liam Meadows against Gusarana Rallies. In the Waterford Senior Football Championship semi-finals, Rathgormack against Abbeyside Ballincorty. In the Meath Senior Hurling Championship final, it is Kildale against Ratholt. In the Sligo Senior Hurling Championship final, it's Aesky against Naomh Eoin. In the Leinster Senior LGFA preliminary quarterfinals, it's Kilmacud Crooks from Dublin against Longford Slashers from Longford. In the Ulster Senior LGFA quarterfinals, and they're on this weekend as well. So Glenfin from Donegal against Errigal Kieran from Tyrone. Breda from Down against St. Erknitz from Antrim. Lurgan from Cavan up against Emmett O from Monaghan. And Derry Gondy Harps from Fermanagh up against Clonairon of Armagh. In the Westmeath Senior LGFA final of St. Lomans against Milltown, that was supposed to play 2 weeks ago, but because of Storm Amy, that was rescheduled for this weekend. In the Munster Intermediate LGFA quarterfinals, you've got Cork Barras from Tipperary against St. Albans from Limerick, and Neva Vaughan from Cork against St. Anne's from Waterford. In the Connacht Intermediate LGFA quarterfinal, you have Clare Morris from Mayo against Drumcurran from Leitrim. And finally, the Munster Junior LGFA quarterfinals, you have St. Patrick's from Waterford against Coolgate from Clare. And finally, Dawnies from Cork against Father Casey's from Limerick. Just on a personal point of view, Dawnies are from the same region of Cork as myself, West Cork, so wishing them all the best of luck in the Munster Junior LGFA quarterfinal this weekend. So that is a wrap on this weekend's show. Thanks to everybody that commented. Thanks for everybody that watched the show. Make sure to tune in for the weekend review show whenever that will be this weekend. It probably won't be Sunday, considering all of our teams are involved in finals this weekend. But we'll have to see when. But keep an eye on our social medias for all that information. Thanks to everybody that commented. Thanks to the lads for popping on as well. Thanks to you for watching. And until next time, we'll see you then. Take care and enjoy the games at the weekend.
Instinct, baby.